In recent years, the Caribbean has been the home region for a growing number of people in Boston and other parts of Massachusetts. Trying to make sure that population is reflected in the 2020 census is one of the missions for the nonprofit Authentic Caribbean Foundation, Inc. We'd like to welcome its founder and president, Andrew Sharpe, and also joining us is a member of the foundation, Donna Frette. Thank you both for being with us.
Thank you, Chris.
Andrew, why don't you tell us a little bit about the foundation, because you have the census project right now, but you also have health and education concerns too.
Yes, we are a nonprofit organization, 501c3, and our mission statement is to assist kids with disability, both Caribbean American kids based here in Massachusetts and those who are in the Caribbean region. That's the main focus. But also we advocate and advance the interests of our Caribbean American diaspora community. And we look at engagement both from the federal, state, and city level in terms of important issues that are affecting our community: housing, immigration. We know that the census is coming up, so we must be counted, and we also must tell our own stories, because most of the time people count us and we don't count ourselves, or we don't tell our own story. So we must do that. And another key issue that is affecting us is climate disaster. This climate change is very, very, very critical, and we should be talking more about it.
Donna, you joined this organization because you were trying to get more visibility, or at least find more visibility for this diaspora.
I did. I migrated here back in the 80s, and I know when I first came, there wasn't a lot of people here for me to engage with. And now that I have kids, I find that when they were younger, I had to take them to the islands to expose them to the culture and the way of life that we had back in the islands. So I was always looking for an opportunity to see how I can make Caribbean people more visible, more involved, and inclusive in the activities that were going on in the Boston area. So that's why one of the reasons I got engaged with Andrew.
Well, when most of us think of visibility, we think of Carnival, but I'm sure there's a lot more to it than that. So what are we talking about?
I'm talking more about in the arts, athletics, programs, wherever there's a need within the Caribbean that we cannot fulfill there, I try to see how I can get it done here, and then try to bridge it all together so we can have the same kind of cultural blending, so to speak, from one into the other.
Andrew, you're also concerned in a way about a lack of visibility when it comes to the census. How bad is this problem for the Caribbean community in Boston?
Well, most of the Caribbean, we have a few undocumented also, but also we have Caribbean folks who are just so busy, you know, it's homework. So for us, it's just to trying to make a living. And sometimes, you know, the mindset is, oh no, they want our own business, they want to get to know our own business, so we're not going to bother with that. And the statistic has shown that we're in the low risk of counting. You know, we have people who are 5, 6, 7 people in the house, so they don't really give out that information and so forth. So it's very important as a community organization who is there in the community, who rapports through our events. I mean, we have several festivals and workshops that people attend. One is on the Greenway, the other is the National Caribbean American Heritage Month, and so forth. So we try to engage with our community member and at least keep them informed. Because the communication to our Caribbean people is slightly different in the approach of communicating to them. So we have to communicate to them from a grassroots level.
Going back to Donna, what does that mean, communicating to people about the importance of the census? What do you need to get across?
Well, I think most of the Caribbean persons that we know and live in the community, a lot of them have that idea that if you're talking about the census, everybody go into fair mode. It's like they're going to get deported, or they're going to know how much I make, they're going to take something from me. I don't want them to know how many kids I have. So I think most of the times it's the fear that keeps them from understanding that census means you get more educational opportunities, more financial opportunities, more housing opportunities that might be available to you. So being counted means on a higher level, you can actually make a difference in your life. So we have to somehow get them comfortable, not just through carnival, through music, whatever forum we can use to get them to feel comfortable in sharing that information and take away that fear that they're going to somehow be gone just because they shared the information.
Yeah, Andrew, explain that connection, because if you get the full count of people, how does that help them, whether it's from government aid or other opportunities? What are we talking about?
Well, the statistic has been showing the growth of the Caribbean community in terms of own ownership and also in terms of jobs. So I just read there was a report 2019 that shows that the income for Caribbean nationals second generation has increased to 60,000 odd, and own ownership, or the highest own ownership in the city of Boston. So some of these opportunities will be available for us: more funding, more access to grant, more access to loans, more facilities in our community, schooling and aids and so forth. So it's very, very important that our Caribbean American community be at the table, be represented, because if we're not at the table, then we'll lose out. And two, it also will encourage them, seeing that the growth, we're on an upward growth, so we want to continue that upward growth with all community, as according to the US Caribbean's 2020 strategy talk about prosperity for Caribbean American community. So we must look at prosperity for our community.
Donna, people in city government for decades, they fully understood the importance of getting a full count. They want money from Washington and so on. But on the other hand, you're talking about immigrants here, and they're hearing different things from the White House, especially pretty negative things about immigrants. So does that matter in the count?
Oh yes, it does matter in the count, because if I'm hearing a lot of negative things within the journalism world, or wherever I'm hearing that, I don't want to be involved. I tend to go in the back and say, all this is going on, I don't want my stuff out there. So it's really important to have people understand, even there's that negativity exists, it's still important to come forward and be visible within that.
Andrew, speaking of federal government, it's one thing from the White House, but what about the way people in Congress, whether US senators or members of the House of Representatives, are relating to your population? What could you say about that?
Well, just recently we had a visit of the State Department in the Caribbean, and they were addressing CARICOM. We see there's a Caribbean caucus in Congress, and that's supported by one of our local Congresswoman, Ayanna Pressley. And it talks about that engagement between both the Caribbean and the United States. So we try our best to lobby for funding. One of the things they talk about was security in the region, which this administration is looking at, security and trade. So we speak about that heavily when we're in that dialogue with the United States government and Congress. And just recently, they have completed a report on the progress of the US Caribbean 2020 strategy.
We should mention you've also got a Black History Gala coming up on the 15th of February, and if people want some more information about your organization and the census effort, is there a way they can find that online?
Yes, they can. They could visit our website at www.AuthenticCaribbeanFoundation.org. Caribbean with one R and two B's.
Right. Thank you both very much, Andrew Sharpe and Donna Frette from the Authentic Caribbean Foundation.
Thank you.